So you wrapped up producing, recording, and editing your tracks. You send it off to an engineer to mix and finalize, but somehow it just doesn't hit the mark. You're not really vibing with how it sounds. After a few rounds of revisions, you're still not feeling it. What's next? Maybe you try a different engineer, hoping for a fresh perspective, but the mix still falls flat. It just doesn't have that cool top chart quality you're after. You start wondering if the effects are off, if it's missing that groove, or if the rhythm isn't punchy enough. You can't quite put your finger on it, but something feels off. Have you ever found yourself in this situation? Or maybe you're dealing with it right now. Trust me, you're definitely not alone. A lot of artists have been in the same boat at some point. It happens more often than you think. In this video, I'm going to share a simple rule that can help you get that mix you actually love. Hi, I'm Ivan, a professional audio engineer from Major Mixing Studio. We've been mixing, mastering, and doing all sorts of sound editing for artists for years. Over time, we've seen plenty of hit songs that were spot on and others that had their fair share of flaws. This experience has taught us the right way to craft a song and the common mistakes that artists and producers make along the way. If you're having a tough time getting that perfect mix, this video is just for you. But first, let me share a story you might know. It's about Kanye West and how he created the track Stronger. Kanye loved the sound of Justin Timberlake's hit Sexy Back, and he wanted his song to be even cooler and punchier. So they worked on the arrangement, recorded everything, and jumped into mixing. But the mix just wasn't living up to Kanye's expectations. He teamed up with over 10 different mix engineers and created about 20 versions of the song, but nothing really clicked. By then, everyone could see he was hopping from one engineer to another, and it was kind of weird because who goes through that many engineers for just one song, right? Eventually, he took a step back and realized he needed a different approach. That's when he reached out to Timbaland, the genius behind Sexy Back. During a studio session, Timbaland quickly reprogrammed the drum track, giving it a stronger, more impactful kick that cut through the mix perfectly. The rumor is that it took him no more than 1 minute. This tweak made the track sound cleaner and way more dynamic. It completely transformed the song, exactly what Kanye was looking for. What this story highlights is that when Kanye West's song wasn't hitting the right notes, he didn't just need a better mix engineer. He needed the right producer to enhance the sounds. A lot of people miss this point and end up putting way too much pressure on mixing. Now let's check out a perfect example of mixing. We're going to listen to some before and after tracks from Rob Kinelski, a highly skilled mix engineer who's worked with Billie Eilish and other big names. He shared this example in one of his mixing tutorials. Let's take a listen. What I'm getting at is that the difference between the before and after mixing isn't as huge as you might think. The track sounded great before mixing, and it sounds even better afterwards. These days, it's not uncommon for mix engineers to receive even wet stamps for mixing. So the groove, punchiness, and overall impact of the mix don't completely change after it's mixed. The engineer's job is to highlight the song's strength and bring those forward. That's what you should really expect from mixing. Here's the key to takeaway. A great producer brings way more to a song than a mix engineer does. Sure, high-quality mixing is important, but mixing can only go as far as the production allows. Now, some artists might say that there are mix engineers who can add extra effects, change sounds if needed, and even redo entire tracks to make them sound their best. And that's true, there are some incredibly talented folks out there. But keep in mind that when they do that, they're stepping into the producer's role, working more like co-producers. In our experience, the tracks that achieve success and popularity typically follow a specific process. It all starts with the songwriter crafting a song, and then the artist may create a demo version to express the concept and feel of the track. After that, the song goes to a talented producer or composer who creates the music and arrangement. Most of the time, the producer also handles sound design and effects like creative reverbs, delays, uplifters, and so on. fun. These effects are a crucial part of the overall sound, and they're added by the producer. That's why by the time a producer finishes work on a track, it usually already sounds pretty solid. In fact, some songs get released straight from the initial collaboration because they sound so good after a skilled producer pulls everything together. The demo mix can be impressive, but if you're aiming for perfection and want to compete in the industry, you'll need a bit more. First, you want to be absolutely sure your track is ready to reach its full potential and meet industry standards. The mix engineer will ensure that and make the mix sound even better and create a more polished version. Second, a mix engineer will check the song for any little mistakes or flaws that could have slipped in during the production process. Fresh ears are always helpful in getting your creation ready for release. So, the producer hands off the project to a mix engineer who will work with the multi-track that contains all the instruments, vocals, and the effects added by the producer. You can also give the wet multi-track to the mix engineer because sometimes it's easier to work with the wet tracks if there's no need to change the effects. It's tough, almost impossible to reconstruct complicated effects and automation that a professional has created. So, if something goes wrong with the effects soundtracks, it's always better to use wet tracks rather than trying to recreate those creative effects or automation. So, what's the conclusion? If you're listening to your track and it doesn't sound quite right or isn't matching your vision, a mix engineer might not be able to elevate it to that level. You need a producer. If you're aiming for a top chart, industry level hit and your song isn't there yet, you definitely need a producer or an engineer who's also a producer to help get it to that point. Mixing alone won't do the trick. That's what I wanted to share in this video. I hope you found it useful and I wish you all the best with your upcoming releases and productive collaborations. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the next video. And for those of you looking for a professional touch on your song, whether it's mixing or mastering at an industry level or mixing in Dolby Atmos, I look forward to hearing from you soon. Reach out to our major mixing studio online and we'll help your song sound professional and chart ready. Together, we can help take your career in the industry to the next level.